Good day. Hello, this is Paul Sims speaking to you from London at eyeforpharma offices. Thank you so much for being on time for today's webinar. And I think that we're starting 2 minutes late, so I think I'm just, normally I wait for everybody to come in, but I think in this occasion I will get going straight away. Really appreciate you being here for this session. It's an unusual session. It's a topic that we've not covered before, but I think it's potentially a very, very impactful session indeed. As you can see on your screen, the title is RPA and AI, How Automation Can Solve Your Core Business Challenges, and then the digital workforce as an opportunity for creative capabilities. And I think we're going to talk about both the top and the second line in quite some detail over the course of the next sort of 57 minutes or so. So this is a popular webinar. We've got well over 700 people. I think we may have hit 800 people signed up. So this is something that we do care about, despite the fact it's a relatively new topic, particularly in our industry of life sciences. But, you know, it's one that we felt quite motivated about. I mean, you know, data, we all know, we all talk about it being the new lifeblood. But, you know, the truth is that so much of our technology has yet liberated us in the way that we might have hoped for, you know, when the first dot-com boom came in 20 years ago. The reality is that we haven't managed to cut out the boring tasks. We haven't been able to focus ourselves yet on the higher-minded tasks. And indeed, it seems that every new IT implementation actually introduces new complexity as opposed to gets rid of it. So we really want to find a new way, a simple way to improve that interoperability, to improve that cohesion that we are somehow missing today still. Despite the sort of promises of AI and all of the previous promises that have gone before that. So we believe that automation is a very strong driver for this, and I'm pleased to say that Automation Anywhere have chosen to partner with us for this event, and we're going to be hearing from Catherine very soon, who is indeed one of the front runners in this space and doing, in my opinion, some very, very exciting work. So let me just introduce you to Catherine and also to Subbu, who's going to be joining us as well. So if I just click next slide, you'll be able to see them. I'll start with Subbu. Subbu is the Director of Digital Operations, IT and Business Partner at BD. Obviously, I'm hoping most of you are familiar with BD. It's a company that is more focused in the medtech space than in pure pharma, but I think that at least for this next hour is relatively insignificant. The fact is that Subbu is working in life sciences and in many ways is subject to the same constraints that many of us listening are. But Subbu is actually an expert really in all forms of cognitive computing and natural language processing, as well as the robotic process automation, the RPA, AI, big data, machine learning, process orchestration. He's been there and seen a lot of it, to be honest with you. He's absolutely led programs within his own company and his previous company in exactly this area. And actually reading his bio is almost another language. There's so many sorts of different IT acronyms in it, so I'm not going to attempt to do it justice. But safe to say, we're really pleased to have you on board, Subbu, for this. Thank you very much. Catherine, I already mentioned a second ago. She's in charge of life sciences for Automation Anywhere. And I've got to know Catherine over the last sort of 6 to 8 months or so, and really enjoyed spending time with her, just as a person, but also because she has done some really exciting work, really in every aspect of the commercial side of our industry. And she's been at the cutting edge in really focusing on this RPA as well. And it's amazing some of the things that have been achieved with RPA, which we're going to find out a little more about in a second. And I'm actually going to hand over to Catherine in just 2 seconds to present some slides. But before I do, I just want to say that this is certainly, we hope, to be something of a dialogue as opposed to a one-way stream. So we're going to be asking you, the audience, a few questions, and it'd be great if you take part in that. But please do familiarize yourself with the right-hand side of your screen, which has a questions box. This where you can just send in some free-form questions. And indeed, maybe you could just say a quick hello in there so that I know that you can actually hear me right now, and I haven't bored you already. And that would be wonderful. Okay, yes, getting some hellos coming in, so thank you to those of you sending that. Good to know you've not fallen asleep just yet. So that's, yeah, please, now you've obviously seen that box, please use it, and let's make this a conversation. I will pause what we do every now and then to make sure I introduce your questions. I'm going to hand over to Catherine now, who's going to take us through some scene-setting information. So Catherine, over to you.
Thank you, Paul. It's a great honor to be part of this webinar with your community and talk about the leading edge work that we and large organizations worldwide are doing in life sciences to transform the industry. So that you can show the next slide. What we want to do, it is our goal to provide tools and to enable you to receive the benefits of AI-powered RPA. And what we want to do is help you enable better global health and well-being for people everywhere. And I know that's a big part of many of your missions, and so we are here to help that happen. Next slide. So as part of the industry transformation, the aspect of it is to really look at what is AI-powered automation providing to all sectors. And life sciences has has the opportunity to actually see some significant improvements in customer experience. You know, over 50% of the enterprises that do AI-powered automation are seeing improvements. There's a lot of cost savings. We see not only this indicates that 30% is the average, but we see significant cost savings on several processes, and including ROIs, which everybody asks about. How soon can you get to an ROI? What's amazing about it is that we see ROIs realized within 6 to 12 months. On average, you will see under 12 months. The reality is that it's easy to deploy this within a 10-week period, and then you actually, within the process you start with, you're going to see the benefits right away. And to build on that, implementation is faster, and it is intended to be democratized. The idea is that we want to make it easy for businesses to deploy process automation and AI-powered automation across the organization. And so we're enabling organizations and also sharing the information and best practices with our community. One of the other areas is to see improvements in accuracy, cycle times, and productivity. And I'm going to allow Subbu to really dive into a case study that talks about this particular area. And on average, they see a 30 to 40% across sectors. In life sciences, we see up to 90% reduction in cycle time for specific processes. And obviously, we want to see some higher revenues and opportunities. So contracts gained, greater relationships with your health professionals, and also the ability for the sales team to focus on sustainability, use, information, and enabling your business to grow and adopting the different innovations that are available out there. Next slide. So we know that there's a need to move quickly. When we see the challenges, and Paul alluded to it at the beginning of the call, beginning of our webinar, is that this industry is challenged, and it is in digital transformation, and there's an opportunity to actually take advantage of the innovations that are arising, but also be able to manage the increase in pharmacovigilance costs and compliance costs. I mean, we were talking earlier before the webinar about the high cost of GXP and how that's now, every little thing is now being managed under that. And so therefore, what we want to do is help you address those by increasing competency and reducing costs. We also want to see you enable productivity and transform what you're doing, so that there's a lot of industries that are actually incorporating both the sort of a customer-centric approach. And how do you actually adapt both for the business model of that when you're incorporating devices, pharma, and behavior change apps with the claims management process and the HCPs? So how do we actually enable that ecosystem to deliver on the promise of better human health? And so that's why we want to help you to be able to automate quickly. and be able to, a lot of people not only look for the ROI side, but they also look to how we can enable people that we've hired to do more high value work. How can we redeploy them into areas that help execute on innovation and deliver a greater service to your customer base and to the people that are using your products? So how can we move people from robotic tasks into the human high value tasks? And that's one of the things that we're seeing a lot with over the top 20 pharmaceutical and med device companies that are doing this. They're unlocking the potential of their employee base. Next slide. So one of the things about the industry is that Everest Group shows that automation is a key solution to the challenges that we see. And so we understand that from new business models to pharmacovigilance, that automation can actually be implemented at speed from lab to market. And it's not about going quickly, it's about you need to have the patience to make it happen. But what is important is to realize you can start. And one organization looked at it from we could spend 6 months to a year figuring out what process to do, or we could run a pilot for 3 months and see how it goes. And they ran a pilot in adverse events and saw a significant value in return. I'll talk a little bit about that later. So what we're seeing is that there's applications of this from R&D to manufacturing, sales and marketing, and clinical trials. Next slide. So what is RPA? How many we're going to ask some polls about what you guys know about RPA and what you need to know and what you'd like to learn. And so it's pretty simple. It's a software process. So basically there's 3 components of it. One of them is the act or the task part, which is traditionally the RPA section of the automation platform. And that does what a person does. So if an individual gets into an Excel spreadsheet and then opens up your complaint handling module and pulls in data from SharePoint and does that process, you can record and train the bot to actually do that process for you and automate it, and using the business rules that you've set for that. So, and it does it the same way every time because it's actually programmed that way, and it's intended to be very easy to do that. The next is to sort of think, and this is what we call our IQ bot. And this is basically makes decision based on set rules, and also uses things to scan documents, emails, and process information from everything from claims to field feedback to medical inquiries, and then be able to search a databases to get more answers and get more data into your field or into your patient's hand in terms of information. So the last piece is analysis, and this is not only that, but there's a lot of data integration that people want to do, and the ability for our bot insights to actually control. So it's very important to actually deliver safety, and you actually you are able to control the RPA that's within your organization. So the setting up command centers and being able to monitor the activity of those programs is very important, and it's also important to assure that you have the highest level of security. So we've achieved that, and then Subbu will talk to some of those pieces. Okay, next slide. This kind of covers what AI and how we've kind of built into it. So really we deploy natural language processing, but we also link into other business analytics, and we help build a customer support with integration with chatbots. So what we want to do is enable AI to be on-ramp to AI to help deliver the value of it sooner, and also to help pull data from multiple sources so that your insights and your ability to actually leverage the innovations from artificial intelligence is realized. Not only that, but to process your business better on the back end. Next slide. And this is there's a very rich amount of information on this slide, and it covers the specific processes that we are seeing across the industry. As I mentioned, the top 20 organizations are deploying this, but not only the big companies, we're also seeing it in innovative companies who are actually trying to drive speed to market. And what they're looking for is how can we get there faster with a better product and how can we enable our scientists to deliver a more productivity, and it really taking out the drudgery of pulling data from multiple sources. And one organization told us that if they're able to free up the scientist time or increase the productivity of the lab, they see a 10x return. Within other areas, such as safety, we had one company who automated 100,000 adverse events worldwide, both clinical and pre-commercial. So what they were able to do is automate the back part of that process and able to see an ROI in less than 12 months and save millions of dollars doing that. There's other areas like research and clinical trials in terms of being able to automate manual processes and documents, or do work with patient monitoring and recruitment. And if you're interested in actually diving into these use cases or finding out more about them, I'm more than happy to spend time with you. Please either connect with us afterwards, or feel free to put your information in the chat box, and I will endeavor to to set up a time with you soon. And so I'm going to, the next slide, some of the most interesting aspects is a story that Subbu's going to tell. So I'm going to leave it to him to actually tell you how to get started and how to expand. And then we'll have a conversation with Paul about the details and areas that you're interested in and explore, and we'll have a dynamic conversation around how to implement and realize the benefits with automation for your life sciences company. Over to Subbu.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Before we head over to Subbu, I actually think that it would be a really nice thing just to see where our audience is right now, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, sounds good.
Just to sort of find out, you know, where are we on this journey? And by the way, I'm getting a few people sending in their details after your call there, so Catherine, so you're a popular lady, and I thought you gave a really nice summary there of the opportunity. So let me just launch a little question in front of you all right now. You should hopefully be able to see this in front of you. At what stage of RPA implementation are you? And don't worry if you think you're nowhere yet, because there's a range here. Either at the very top, we have multiple successful RPA implementations currently, so you could perhaps describe yourself as an advanced user in that case. We are undertaking our first full-scale implementation, so you've clearly committed, but in the early stages still. Or perhaps you're just piloting or proof of concept, not yet scaled anything beyond that. None, but you're actively considering at this stage. Or finally, none, you're new to this. This is possibly even the first time you've really had a conversation about it right here. Okay, so let's hold that open for another 3 seconds. We've got about 60% of you voted so far. I can see a few people writing the answers in the Q&A box. Don't do that. Answer it on the poll itself, right in front of you, if that's okay. Right, 3, 2, 1. There we go. I'm going to close that and have a look at the results. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so I don't think this is a huge surprise. We've got a majority of people, over a third, saying that they're new to this, but actually a significant minority having actually taken their first steps here. So you know, we do even have, you know, it's less than 10%, but we do even have a few people that would describe themselves as experts. And as I said, we've got around about 700 people signed up for this webinar, so that's hopefully quite useful data there. So, Subbu, that hopefully gives you a little bit of a sense of who you're going to be talking to as you go across this, and maybe I can hand that over to you now, and you can explain what you've been doing at BD.
Sure. Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Catherine. So just as a continuation on what Catherine talked about earlier, I would like to continue from the slide on what RPA is, what RPA bot is, right? So in many of the organizations, we have a typical shared service center where customer service reps take orders, process order reconciliations, or process shipments, shipping labels. Most of these work are nothing but a packaged solution which does not need any human judgment. It is a it is a series of screen clicking in SAP or Oracle or any enterprise software, copying data from a spreadsheet, loading into an enterprise application, and then sending an email. Does not typically have a lot of human judgment. Automating this, creating order or processing a sales reconciliation, typically automating this end-to-end process takes about 8 to 10 weeks. You develop a code on how this work is being done manually by a person, automate that, convert that manual work into a code, deploy into a server, and then run it. And then we increase the accuracy of the bot, and we increase the productivity, and also we increase the user experience. This is where BD is at today. We have 220 such bots in production. We have $7 million of FTE work completely automated now. There are 150 bots in pipeline. We have reduced our cost to 80%, and we have improved our cycle time over 90%. Yeah. Next slide, please. So as the results in the poll described, we are still new, a lot of people are still new into this journey. So when we started, it was still a very tough road. We have to convince leadership. We have to get a lot of buy-in from the customers. So we started in 2016. We started with a small team, and we started with a pilot. We started with something like 1 bot per month. And when we started, of course, in the medical device industry, we have a lot of controls, compliance, and audit standards required. We established a very rough control and compliance standard in 2016 that did not comply with the complete standards of GXP regulations or FDA. We started simple, and then we established an offshore factory where we have like 45 plus developers and testers. And then we started building several commercial models with our vendors, whether we should buy bots based on a contract or we should build them. And then we established a chargeback framework within the organization on how much we should be charging for a sales order creation bot or something like a package slips creation bot. We established a cost structure, and once we established the people and the process, then we really thought about ramping up the space into a digital command center so that we provide appropriate support. And also we established a full-fledged process that is complying with the 21 CFR Part 11, where you meet with, we work with DocuSign for getting all the signatures for developing the AI use cases, testing the AI use cases, and how we are going to deploy and comply when it comes to 21 CFR Part 11 standards. And then today we are with deploying close to 15 to 20 bots per month. And we have established a great control when it comes to process, and we are completely compliant when it comes to BD quality standards as well. Next slides, please. So what I'll be doing, I'll describe 2 to 3 high-level use cases that will give you an idea about what is a better fit, where exactly RPA will fit among within your industry. So BD Back Tech, it is a culture media system. It decreased time to detection any analytical phase within a full spectrum of blood culture media solution. Due to increased regulations in this space, there was a mandate recently that laboratories provide increased visibility and traceability of all lot numbers and expiration date of the BD Bactec bottles. When when the solution was designed, only the complete package of the BD Bactec bottle provided that traceability. After the mandate, individual bottles needed such visibility, and clinicians needed visibility into each bottle, when exactly the expiry date for each of these bottles. Creating a solution for this is a much longer term, so we used RPA in this case, where a scanner will scan the barcode of each bottle, and we maintained an SQL database that relates to the overall packaged BD Bactec solution, and then it will find out from the overall BD package when would this bottle's expiry date would be, and then the RPA bot will scan the database, find out the expiry date, and immediately send an email to clinician that this is the expiry date for this particular bottle. That is part of a much larger package. So today, what clinicians do is they send an email to a bot with a serial number of the bottle, and within 2 seconds, an RPA bot scans the database and sends an email back to them that this is the expiry date for the bottle. As a part of this solution, we enabled $1 million new revenue annually. This is a capability where our competitors were not offering. With RPA solution, we were able to provide that pretty quick. And of course, we improved the customer experience. And also, we have a complete digitized workflow that increased the accuracy and also our adherence to the accreditation and the governing body requirements. Next slide, please. This is another use case where BD Impress is a surgical instrument management system. So in our pre-operative care continuum, or during the surgical operations room, what does physicians use, how many BD products is being used, how many are not being used in a surgical room. All of those data should be captured as part of the Impress analytics system, but collecting that data over 156 different hospitals and customers and maintaining a dashboard was a pretty manual task. We were able to get a dashboard from each hospital on the usage report on BD products, but combining 156 customers across the hospitals was still a very challenging task. What we do is we deployed an RPA bot. The bot logs into the hospital websites, which is maintaining the Impress hospital website on each of the 156 customer, downloads the usage report. We maintain a database where all of this report is being consolidated, and we provide a single dashboard which provides the asset utilization KPI across all the hospitals. So overall, this use case has a very good experience on the patient care. We have a predictive analysis of the surgical site infection risk. And also we have a data-driven policy decision for staff and workflow on what products to consume and what not to consume. And of course, it is improving the better asset utilization requirements in the surgery room. Next slide, please. This is the third use case. This is a very interesting use case where we are deploying a solution with a combination of an artificial intelligence solution, an RPA solution, and something like MuleSoft or interfacing, where you solve a problem of updating the product labels. Updating a product label or diagram in your products is a very tedious task. Say, for example, recently BD acquired two more larger companies, and we changed the logo of all our BD products, and our BD branding department wanted to schedule deploy a massive project where all of our BD product logo is changed. Uh, it is a very tedious activity, and it is a very manual activity. What a person does today is log into our SAP system, download, enter a product label number, and download what are the product specifications for each of this product, and then go to the diagram, identify the diagram of each of this product, make the changes, and then save it in SAP back. It is easily to make a change for such product specification. It took 5 months. It is highly a very labor intensive activity. After deploying the solution, we reduced the 5 months to 4 weeks. So what the solution is, after the implementation of this automation, um, a support rep or any internal BD employee could chat with a chat agent specifying the product specification number. Using a interface, the product specification number is getting interacted with SAP and identifies whether there is already someone is making changes to the same product specification number or not. If it is yes or no, depending on if there are like previous database results existing for that. Depending on that, an RPA bot will create a spreadsheet with a list of product specifications. What are the products we have to create for the MPS hypodisposable products, and then log into SAP, download all the product information and the product specification numbers, downloads the diagrams into a shared drive, which we are maintaining, and then another .NET engine will log into these diagrams, update, make changes to each of these product specification, and give back a customer, give back the requester saying that your product specifications, the changes to the diagrams are being in the process, and then this is the status. And then throughout the process, the requester is getting a notification or an email saying that your documents are being downloaded, your documents are being changed, and then after being changed, the documents are, the change is successful or not successful, and then provide the proper information. On an average, after deploying the solution, we are our volume is close to 400 requests a month. Like so 400 hundreds of customer base, like internal customers within BD, they are interacting with the chat agent to access the product specifications and make changes to the product specification. We reduced our time to market for any product from 5 months to 4 weeks, and then the end-to-end cycle time to perform label updates were reduced by 80% for almost 8 different work streams. And then over time, the automated work generates, we have created a central knowledge database. So on top of this automation, we are able to build intelligence on how often a particular product is being changed, why are they getting changed, what is the time period typically a product is getting changed. We are trying to build an intelligence, and I think that is a very useful data for us, and we are having a lot of insight on why a particular product is being changed and when it is being changed and what is the trigger for that. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the continuation of the same use case. So this is what we change. Say if we have to, in the BD 10 ml oral internal syringe, like if we have to change the REF number or the non-sterile versus sterile, all of this needs a lot of manual work where you have to log into SAP download, and it goes through several change boards, and then after that, to make a change, even if it is the smallest change in this label, it took 8 months. After implementing the solution, we are using only like 5 months, and it is a combination of AI, RPA, machine learning, and the OCR tool. OCR is the optical character recognition tool, where it just scans the picture, parse the data from the picture, and identifies which area should be changed. So it is a very integrated packaged solution using a cognitive agent where we interact, using RPA where we download the product, using machine learning we identify where exactly the product should be changed, and using big data we develop an intelligence around how often we make the change and why we make the change. Next slide, please. So this is a very simple use case, looking at the previous poll data, since most of you are new to the space. Expansion code, right? So a customer service representative or a sales rep goes in front of hospitals and he creates a quote for a, a product or a huge deal with the hospital. Typically what the sales rep does today is he logs into SAP and he gets into Salesforce, identifies the opportunity in Salesforce, and then goes into SAP, and then go through 15 different screens on where exactly the product should go. Is it into your surgery room, or is it directly in the patient room? When do you need it? How often you need it? It takes a lot of time. So instead of spending a sales rep spending all the time in the hospital when he's facing the customer, spending the time on an SAP screen, what we thought is it is a lot of valuable time. We need not spend a lot of time facing SAP screens, and sometimes the performance is low, and it is a lot of hassle for the sales rep. All he does after the automation is he fills in a sample template in a spreadsheet on what is the product number, where you need to go, and when do you need it, and what is the ship to sale to number, and all of that. A simple template we standardized, and a sales rep fills the spreadsheet and sends an email to the bot saying that I need a quote created, and he just sends an email and he can start his interaction within the hospital leadership, and then a bot logs into Salesforce, identify the opportunity, logs into SAP, creates a quote, and once the quote is completed after 20 minutes, the sales rep gets the quote directly to him or to the hospital, depending on what exactly the sales rep wants. So typically, to create such a bot, we took 8 weeks because it is a highly standardized. All the sales rep does is navigate through 15 different screens and capture the product number, ship to number, like surgery room or a patient care room, location. Very simple information that did not really require any human intelligence. So we captured this entire workflow, deployed into an automation, deployed into a server, and then an user, the sales rep can interact with the bot using an email. And we reduced a lot of manual effort, and we improved the customer satisfaction. And also there is a quick turnaround for code creation from minutes instead of days. So typically a sales rep, he's like, okay, I'll create a quote in the next 2 days and give it to you. That is a typical reply, but with an RPA bot, it is like 20 minutes, the quote is already there. Next slide, please. So these are the simple high-level use cases for RPA. it is working, and it is adding a lot of value for BD. And we have improved our accuracy, we have improved our customer satisfaction, and most importantly, we have seen a lot of ROI on our what we have invested in RPA. And also we are our sales reps or the customer service reps who's taking order, or in the R&D who's making product label specification changes, they're all focused on much more innovative value-added tasks than focusing on a very typical repetitive activity. Thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Sibu. Round of applause to you for giving us such a comprehensive insight into and being willing to sort of bear all there in showing us exactly what was involved. As you might expect, I have a few audience questions that I think I should go to at this stage. Gosh, where to start? Amal Mohammed has asked several questions, but many of them are to do with sort of the human uptake of RPA. So perhaps you could express a little there about how well that has been received, both internally and externally, and indeed what's going on there. Jennifer asks, a lot of the RPA AI uses are for where data is very well structured and very accessible. But how do you know what format you need to get your data into in the first place in order for it to then be appropriate for these applications? James Pierce has just written in and said, how do you govern the use of RPA within BD? I mean, you showed the sort of screens there, the control center, I think you called it, but James asks if there's any kind of governance committees, any kind of human control there. Hanumat asks about typical costs per bot, which is perhaps a little bit like asking how long is a piece of string, because I imagine it varies a lot, but some kind of indication would be useful. And then finally, a couple of people, I mean, we're going to get to this anyway in the conversation, but you know, what was the biggest challenge in actually adopting this? So a few questions there. You've probably forgotten the ones at the beginning of when I started talking, Sibu, but maybe you can have a go at tackling some of those.
Sure. Like the human aspect, I will start with that. How people received the RPA. Initially, it was tough. We did not have a good reception from the user community. But lately, after 2 years into this journey, people have realized the benefit of it, and we do see a lot of adoption rate. So 2 years before, we automated something like order reconciliation. We had users used a bot to reconcile an order, like 10 requests per month. They were giving their work, like a human is reconciling an order. He or she provided more requests today. We have like 50 to 60 requests coming per month to reconcile an order. So from a human perspective, there were challenges, but slowly the user community is realizing that this is the norm, and there is going to be more such kind of automations in future, and we are seeing a lot of reception. And also from a leadership perspective, there is a lot of visibility into the space to use an AI solution or to use an automated solution to do the work, which is highly repetitive. So to your question, yeah, we are seeing increased reception lately, and I'm pretty sure it is just going to increase at a much higher rate in the coming months.
Yeah, if I can just add to that,
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Sibu. It's a what has happened recently is that because of the advances in the technology, the install base, the more market knowledge and understanding, and the awareness of this as being an option, we've seen organizations go from a 3-month pilot and then be able to start to deploy across the organizations, and they do it through several ways. One of them is they educate and evangelize. They have top-down support and bottom-up demand. And we're working with organizations to do things like art of possible workshops, or we do working sessions with the business units to help them create their pipeline. And we also work with partners, large and small, who have work with clients to help them to identify processes and also manage the change across the organization. And once they realize the difference, they get very excited.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had one company that was like, the guys go, well, we don't want to do this work, we want to build more bots, you know. So they were, so there is that there is that excitement that happens once you start to get that experience.
I can just give you an example, Catherine. Like, we developed a bot for creating rush orders for Japan. 2 years ago, we developed the bot. Right now, we are at a stage that the user community forgot how to create rush orders, so the bot is doing it. So that is the level of difference we are in.
That's awesome. Now. Yeah, that's very impressive. And I think you were actually processing claims as well. So it was, anyway, pretty amazing how people don't even know this is happening through a bot, and how efficient and accurate it is. So,
yeah, we process claims for, say, Cardinal Health or Medline. All of the customers, we process BD claims through a bot, and most likely Cardinal Health or Medline wouldn't even know that they are discussing with a bot.
It's amazing.
Can I ask you to also cover the question on governance and command centers, because we've actually had a couple more people coming in, sort of people wondering, you know, how many staff does it take to man the command center? How many bots can a command center manage? And the earlier questions you might remember is, do you have some kind of human governance committee over the bots as well?
Sure, I can discuss briefly. The command center part, it is more on the operations of a bot. That comes later. What we need is governance on process and governance on development of this bot. On the process perspective, gathering the requirements and which area of the bot, which area can be automated, that should be governed properly. Is it like, are we automating in areas of product labeling or product packaging? Are we automating in the areas of complaint handling or a clinical trial management? There should be governance around what to automate, and is it a good area to automate? Is it a good process to automate? We need governance in that aspect. And once that governance committee is established, the next comes governance around development of a bot. Like, what are the standards we need to use? A bot is logging into an SAP or a Salesforce to create an order. What roles the bot should get? Is it security compliant? Is it risk compliant? Is it GXP compliant in terms of, do you have a proper documentation around requirement, proper documentation around development standards? And then SOX, are you compliant? Is your process need some SOX evaluation? All of that, is it documented? And if it is documented, how well the documentation is, and who is attesting that the documentation on requirement and the development standards is established? Once the governance is established around the requirement gathering and process identification space, and then once you establish governance around developing a bot and then developing some standards and controls around the space, the next area is the digital command center, where after developing the bot, you deploy the bot, how many people you need to man to monitor the bot. Say, for example, we have 220 bots in production today, which is taking claims to processing orders to creating a product label. For 220 bots, we have 7 to 8 resources who is operating 24/7, managing in a command center on identifying when a bot is failing, who should be notified, how they should be notified. All of that is captured during the requirement stage.
Okay, lovely. We are fast running out of time. This is obviously a very interesting topic. There's a few people who've asked if they can get hold of slides, we are recording today's session, so yes, we will send that to you post session, so don't worry about that. You'll be able to review them, you'll be able to share them with your teams, etc. So yes is the answer to that question. But what I would really like to do is to ask you in the audience another question or two, if that's all right at this stage. So if you look at your screens, you've obviously seen some information now, but I'm really interested to know what you believe are the greatest benefits of automation to your company. And perhaps you can select from one of these options. You've obviously got enabling employees to refocus on more creative tasks. I mean, by the way, all these things are things that came out in both Catherine and Subbu's talks. But which is the greatest motivator, I guess, is what I'm really trying to find out. The cost savings, especially the obvious human costs. Rapidity, Subbu talked a lot about how it reduced from 5 months to 6 weeks, I believe, in one process. Templating, standardizing, error reduction, or finally, is it something else that we've not listed there? So I'll hold that open. I can see about half of you voted. So I shall hold it open 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's have a look at the results. Well, it's actually very interesting because I think it's the thing that we've probably covered least in the conversation so far, but the winner with just over a third is actually the freeing up of employees, with a significant second place is going to cost savings and templating, both with over a quarter of the vote there. And the rapidity, the speed is actually less important. Come on, Pharma, we're slow. We need that speed. Perhaps speed and cost are intertwined and impossible to separate, actually. But yeah, if you've got any more elaboration or information that you'd like to share on that, then throw it into the Q&A box. I'll try and come to the questions quickly before we finish again. But I'm going to ask you another question since we're running out of time. What about this one? Where do you think the priority area really is for RPA, robotic process automation, is in your company? Can you specify which you think is going to get the highest utility? So you've got 5 choices again here: pharmacovigilance, regulatory, adverse events, etc., supply chain and manufacture, tracking, etc., commercial, marketing, data analysis. Obviously, commercial is a very broad area, but I can only do 5 options on this, so that one's quite a big one. Clinical, obviously, we know how administratively heavy clinical trials are and how much improvement we need to put into that area. And then finally, the financial IT, the back office functions, is that the key here? So I've got roughly half of you voted again, the good half, clearly. So I shall hold it open for 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much, everybody who took part there. Let's have a look at the results. So this one's a lot more even. You may have noticed, by the way, I should have said that you could choose more than one result on this one. And I can see that a lot of you have, as that says, obviously doesn't add up to 100 there. But it's pretty even. And I think that says that it's useful everywhere. And indeed, what was very clear there with what Subbu was saying is that increasing parts of the business, increasing acceptance within the business, has actually created and broadened out the use of bots in the business. So I think that's very exciting. I'm tempted to do one final question. What do you think? One final one? Go on then. Go on then. This one's about barriers. So where do we think the key barriers are or will be as we try to implement or scale this process? Is it the fact that we haven't got a clue? I mean, that's obviously what we're trying to solve with this webinar, the lack of awareness. Is it that actually, despite awareness, we've got some kind of entrenched mindsets or culture, no sense of a burning platform or a desire to change, a very traditional conservative mindset? Is it security, compliance, regulatory concerns? We obviously talk a lot about that, particularly when it comes to data at the moment. Is it that you can't get your senior level buy-in? Is it that you simply haven't got the funding for this and you're worried about the cost, the upfront cost? And then finally, is it simply down to skills, competencies? You simply don't know how. Okay, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Thank you, everybody. I think these are quite interesting, these little polls. I hope you agree. So we've got roughly a fifth for everything. Again, quite an even spread. Again, it sort of shows you really that despite having utility everywhere, there's a fairly even spread of concerns to get it up there. Now, I hope that this webinar is obviously helping with some of these. That's the whole point. We are also releasing a white paper very soon, which is providing you with some very written and concrete information. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But I'm interested in, we've only got 3 or 4 minutes left. Really interested to get Subbu and Catherine's sort of reaction to the sort of information that we've just been displaying here, and whether or not they have any specific techniques or suggestions for actually getting this up and running, as clearly there is a desire to do so. Who wants to comment?
Well, thank you. I think the poll was pretty phenomenal and also consistent with what we're seeing. So it looks as if what people are looking for is, how do I get started? How do I build institutional understanding? And second of all, how do I actually, and it's clear what areas they want to focus on. So there is a process that we go through, and we also work with partners to enable people to get on board. And again, I just recommend connecting with us, and we can set up a sort of a personalized session with you to actually do that. And then I'll hand it over to Subbu, who can talk about the specifics within his organization.
No, I think looking at the polls, I think the results, one question around which area will be more beneficial. I think the majority chose supply chain tracking, labeling. I think that is exactly the space which we are also utilizing RPA more. And also on what are the biggest challenges, it was about the entrenched culture. We need a cultural shift. We need a lot of change agents within the organization to drive such programs. I think those are the aspects which we were also primarily focusing on. So I think the poll results were right at where I was expecting.
Okay, wonderful. We are out of time, I'm afraid. I've got some requests on here for your contact details, Catherine and Subbu. So clearly you're a popular couple of people. Just quickly, I'm going to display that just very quickly. If you found this interesting, here's a couple of events where you might be able to hear a bit more about what we've been talking today. You may notice this is Europe and US. So we've got a couple of events coming up there in October. And then similarly, we also have our patient summits there in Europe and US. So take note of those dates if that interests you. And then finally, we've got a major award ceremony where we are trying to focus on the good work that our industry does, the most valuable work for patients and customers. So be aware of the nominations closing on that. But this is Catherine's little slogan here. Oh, I thought this had Catherine's contact details on here, but by all means, please feel free to contact myself. And I will pass that on to either Subbu or Catherine, and you guys can connect directly. I know a few of you have put your contact details into the Q&A box over the course of the session already, so that's great. I can be contacted on, oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, or by LinkedIn. You can connect that way too.
LinkedIn. Catherine will hopefully accept you on LinkedIn if you're nice. Yeah, if you want to contact me, I'm psims@eyeforpharma.com. and I will pass on any messages you wish. So go be great. I think that it's been a fairly swift roller coaster ride through what is possible here, and clearly there is some real desire to take up on this, and I think the opportunity is very clear as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and really hope that you've learned something. I'm going to hold open the Q&A box for a couple of minutes in case you've got suggestions for how we can expand on this topic or cover any other topics. So feel free to write in before we press the close button. And obviously, I very much recommend that you take this a step further and look into it, because it's amazing what can be done with RPA. Thank you so much, everybody, and hope to talk to you soon, and tell us your thoughts for the future. Thanks a lot. Bye bye then.
Thank you.
Thank you.